Hello, I'm John Rossi, a touring drummer with a love of all things animal. When I'm on the road, I visit as many zoos, aquariums... Hey, wait a minute. What's going on? Hey, what's going on there? Hello? 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 We interrupt your regularly scheduled program to bring you Rossifari Zoo news. News you can use from the world of zoos and conservation. Every week, we bring you breaking news and analysis from around the globe, featuring the animals you love and the people who care for them. And here's your anchorman, John Rossi. Hi, hello, how are you? Welcome back to Rossifari Zoo News, your look at everything going on in the world of zoos, aquariums, conservation, and general animal weirdness. Y'all, I am home. I'm home in Buffalo. I'm home in Buffalo for this week, and then I'm heading to, I'm actually heading to New England in a couple days. But I was home for like a week. And if you've been keeping up, you know that I have not been home for a week in quite a while. And so I decided to take it easy. I failed. In the 4 days before working on this episode, I decided to go to the Buffalo Zoo, then the Seneca Park Zoo, then the Toronto Zoo, and then spent a day volunteering at Aquarium of Niagara, which I actually had to cut short because I also had 2 different production meetings for different productions of MDQ I'm doing, and also had a couple of phone calls and meetings dealing with Safe Red Panda stuff, which was very cool. I like presenting to groups of zoological professionals. It's fun, and it's a really neat thing that I've been getting to do in my role in Safe, and it's really, really cool. But y'all, before I even say what I was about to say, I also wrote a new show. Yep. I mean, literally wrote the script for an entire new show and figured out all the songs for it and everything. I am apparently no longer good at relaxing, and I don't quite know what happened. I will say I've also had some relaxing moments. I played some video games and stuff, but I slept well. That's good. But apparently relaxing is not my thing. I do have to tell you, though, that my trip to the Buffalo Zoo, Seneca Park Zoo, and the Toronto Zoo were all flippin' fantastic. And I haven't talked about Toronto in particular for a while, but that is a top zoo for me. I really, really like it there. And the amazing thing is it's a really huge zoo, and you can go and spend time there and see part of it and feel like you've done a whole zoo. We didn't actually get through the whole zoo. We didn't get through all of Africa, and we didn't get to the Canadian section, which is actually an amazing section of the zoo. But still spent the whole day there and just felt like, it was a long day in the best way. Really, really cool to see some amazing red pandas and some camels. And I don't know if you guys saw my post yesterday on Insta and Facebook, but saw a polar bear that was friends with a traffic cone. And it made me very, very happy. So if you haven't checked that out, go and check it out. Now, as I mentioned, I am going to New England this weekend, going to go and spend some time with Danny Poirier Larson and do some cool stuff that will make its way to the pod or social media or both, including seeing their all-new show. They have a new show at Southwick Zoo that the team has worked on very hard. Cassie Molina, who is an outside training expert, has been working with them, and it's all just super cool stuff, and I'm really, really excited to go see it and support Danny and Emily and the whole team, and also to just get to go back behind the scenes and see a little bit more about how they're training it and what they're working on for the rest of the season, and also kind of how they break down their shows and talk about what went right and what went wrong and all of that stuff. Training is such a beautiful and complex thing, and I'm just so touched whenever I get to go and be a part of any of it. It's very, very cool. So that should be a blast. And then the last update that I have for y'all is about Aquarium of Niagara. So, as most of you know, I've been volunteering there for about, I don't know, a year and a third or so, a year and a half almost. And I work with the marine mammals and birds team, meaning seals, sea lions, and penguins. And that team is a very, it's the team at the aquarium. It's a very popular team. People love all those animals, all the cool training stuff. And I've often said it feels like I'm working with the rock stars of the aquarium. And of course, what that means is that they get a ton of volunteers and they get multiple seasonal staff members and they get a ton of interns. And so the person in charge of that program kind of reached out to me and was like, hey, we love you, but, with your variable availability and stuff and us having so many people coming in this summer, I don't know that we're really going to have time for you this summer. And it was said in a very nice, very loving way. It's not like I was getting booted or anything, but fair. The people who can give regular hours and the people who are there full time for internships or, seasonal positions or whatever should get those hours first, right? And honestly, when I'm there and there are too many people and we don't have stuff to do, we all kind of hate it. I feel bad because I'm not doing anything. The team feels bad because I'm not doing anything and they know it and they feel like they're wasting my time. So this was a very positive conversation, but it did mean I wasn't going to be volunteering there this summer, I thought. But then I remembered that while the MMB team might be the rock stars of the aquarium in a lot of people's eyes, I happen to also really love the other main animal care team at the aquarium, the Fish and Invertebrates team, or F&I. And even though they are neither fish nor invertebrates, all of the turtles and the other herps that are taken care of at the aquarium are on the F&I team. So I spoke to them and especially to their curator, Raf, who is somebody who I just really love and respect. He's such a cool dude. And I'm going to be volunteering for them this summer. So I need to get my schedule and figure all that out. I'm going to get that rolling soon. I don't know when I'm going to start with that yet, but I'm basically switching teams and I'm going to go and I'm going to work with, sea turtles and spotted turtles and side neck turtles and newts and snakes and also, the actual fish and invertebrates that the team is named after. It's going to be so cool to get to see this different side of the aquarium. And when I'm done, and I'm not even sure if I will. I don't know if I'm just going to do the summer, if I'm going to stay on that team. We'll see what happens. But at some point here, I'm going to have been trained on all of the things, on all of the animal care stuff at the facility, which I think is really fantastic and really exciting. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with y'all. So all right, this was a long one, but real quick, before we get to the actual news, quick reminder to make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss any Zoo News episodes on Fridays or interview episodes on Tuesdays. Make sure that you're following along on the socials at Rossifari and at Rossifari Pod on the TikTok machine. And remember that you can send me stories and you can tag me in them or email them to me, rossifaripod@gmail.com. And I will say your name at the end of the episode, whether I use them or not. So with all of that said, let's get to it.
Well, it's 1 for the pandas, 2 for the bears, 3 for the monkeys. Now you should care. Now won't you listen to Zoo News? Or you could do anything, but why not listen to Zoo News?
All right, so we're going to start off with our headline story, and it's actually a compilation of a couple different stories. I've liked doing that lately. There's just sometimes some thematic stuff seems to be happening. And this week, the headline is that it is a bad time to be a bad zoo. Got a couple different stories here about this. So the first one is the Natural Bridge Zoo in Virginia. Now, we've talked about this before, and it was raided, and there were all kinds of controversies and stuff. And then the owners sold the zoo, but they really just sold it to their daughter, who had also been the animal welfare manager or something like that there, maybe the curator, I don't know, something like that. So was it a new owner and all that stuff? Well, now they're in trouble again, and they have had multiple giraffes removed from the facility. So things are still going poorly there, and the quote new ownership that is still a family member the family that owned it is having the type of issues that the last owners had, because technically they're still basically the same owners. So sucks for them. We'll keep an eye on it. Also, this is not a zoological facility, but it may as well have been. 7 tigers were seized from a Nevada home recently. 7 tigers. The man who owned them, and I'm not going to say the name because, again, we don't like to shout the naughty names on this podcast. But not only did he need to surrender his tigers, but he actually struggled with the cops physically before being taken down to the ground because, well, of course he did. He has not had proper permits or permission for the cats since at least 2015, but has used legal stall tactics to not have to get rid of them. But now they have been confiscated, much to his chagrin, as he claims they are his emotional support animals. Emotional support tigers. Yeah. If I was the judge, I would say, cool, walk on in and put a vest on each one of them. And if you live, you can call them your emotional support animals. I wouldn't actually do that, but you get what I'm saying. Meanwhile, the 5-star farm in South Carolina recently suffered a tragic loss. But it's not an animal. Well, it is, but only because humans are animals. The brother of the guy who owns the place was found dead in the kangaroo and wallaby habitat after apparently losing a fight to a kangaroo. The dude apparently liked to roughhouse with the kangaroos and would regularly go in there and, start fights with the kangaroos, physical fights with kangaroos. And that did not go well for him, and he was beat up and bruised to the point of dying. This is what I like to call the find out portion of F around and find out. On a side note, they don't actually know what animal killed the guy. And since there were kangaroos and wallabies in the habitat, I like to think in my own headcanon that it was a tiny little Parma wallaby that was just you messing with us, die, and took the dude out. It's my headcanon. Another fun story in this area is the sentencing date for Doc Antle has been set. On June 10th, he will be sentenced on multiple charges, including conspiracy to violate the Lacey Act and money laundering. Antle, of course, is the owner of Myrtle Beach Safari and runs the Rare Species Fund, which, according to court documents, has used different tactics to traffic endangered animals and commit other crimes and cover it up and do weird paperwork stuff and all of that. Antle, if you recognize the name and aren't placing it, was seen by much of the world on Tiger King. And actually, a dude fighting a kangaroo and Doc Antle might not be the craziest story in this headline, because the main course of this headline is that the West Coast Game Park Safari was recently raided by police after reports of starving lions and a dead tiger that had been stored in a refrigerator with animal food for months. On a side note, why is it always tigers that are left dead at these places? This is at least the third story I've done like this that features a very bad decision of just leaving a dead tiger in a place that you shouldn't. Even the dude that had 7 tigers as his emotional support tigers wasn't leaving dead tigers lying around. It's insane. But yeah, so the zoo has been open since 1969. They have 450 animals, representing 75 species, and over the years have had consistent USDA violations. Some of these violations were pretty intense. There was a leopard and some lions that appeared to be starving. There were no attendants in areas where animals and humans have contact, like the goat, sheep, and llama yard. The fence heights were too small for many of the dangerous animals, which I guess technically isn't a big deal if you feed them so little that they can't jump over a fence, but not a great way to handle that, in my opinion. There were rodent feces and animal foods above the legal limit. And yes, there are legal limits about how many rodent feces you can have in all food, not just animal food. Enjoy your next soda, friends. And they also allowed guests to pet a jaguar and a bear. They also apparently were trying to kill a bear for proper reasons, ? But I think they got the wrong bear, if I understood this correctly, and maimed and killed another bear in the effort to kill the bear they were trying to kill. And also, at one point, they had one full-time employee in charge of feeding over 300 of the animals. I've heard of some pretty crazy strings at zoos, but a 300 animal string is a lot. And as of this time, the investigation is ongoing. But more than 300 of the 450 animals have been confiscated. They've been relocated to sanctuaries, rescues, zoos, and that includes our friends at Lions, Tigers, and Bears Sanctuary. You heard from Bobby Brink a couple years ago on the podcast now. Fantastic episode, fantastic human, and just an incredible sanctuary. But unfortunately, a lot of the animals that they confiscated had to be euthanized because it would have been impossible to transport them. They were too sick, they were too weak, etc. So not great. And early on, as I was reading this story and getting ready to talk about it this week, everything I saw said that the investigation is ongoing and no charges have been filed at this time. So right before I recorded, I did a quick Google search to make sure that that hadn't changed. And that is where this story went completely off the rails. So I Googled Brian Tenney, which is the owner of this place, and arrested, ? And it turns out that Brian has been arrested, but not charged with any animal abuse issues yet. Now, wait, hold, don't get upset. Those investigations are still ongoing and charges are expected. But John, you're saying to yourself, this whole thing was about, all of the animal abuse. So what was he charged with? Well, during the raid, police found guns, $1.6 million in undocumented cash, methamphetamine, and apparently a meth lab. It seems like dude was cooking meth at his zoo. He was too busy Breaking Bad to feed his jaguars. I need a sequel to Tiger King and Breaking Bad that ties these two together, right? I don't like the sensationalism of this stuff, but holy crap, a meth lab at a zoo. How did I not think of this and write a whole book series about it? This is insane. So yeah, it was pretty amazing to be looking to see what animal neglect charges were out there and only to find out that it was Tiger King meets Breaking Bad. So, my advice to anybody who might be listening to this and trying to run a bad zoo, which I know is none of you, but still, stop it. It's not going to go well for you. And that brings us to our births for the week. Our great friends at Tanganyika Wildlife Park have welcomed a new bongo to their herd. She's currently behind the scenes, as is the entire herd, but is doing well and is already quite the explorer. She was born to Mom Strudel and is very similar to her in nature, and early on, she spent all her time with Strudel, but now it seems like she's becoming a daddy's girl and is spending all her time with her dad, which is just really cute. Rosamond Gifford Zoo in Syracuse has welcomed 2 male Humboldt penguin chicks. Both of the penguins were born to penguins Peru and Quattro, but dealing with 2 penguins at once is hard for parents, and even just dealing with the eggs becomes very hard because normally they'll switch who's sitting on the egg and who's eating and stuff, so if both are there, it becomes a challenge. So they actually decided to remove one of the eggs from the couple and give it to foster parents, Luis and Calypso, who are already veteran parents. And so both couples are now raising one of the chicks that were born to Peru and Quattro. They're behind the scenes for the moment and will stay that way until their waterproof feathers come in and they are able to join the colony. Fresno Chaffe Zoo has welcomed a baby colobus monkey to mom, Shani. So the cute thing about this story, beyond the fact that baby colobus monkeys are adorable, is that the baby not only clings to Shawnee, which is pretty common. Clinging to mom is a thing for colobus monkeys and, certain humans that we all know, but also clings to the big sister, Pi. So both of them get a clingy baby from time to time, which is just adorable. And then the Exmoor Zoo has announced a baby boom, or really, I guess you would call it a joey boom, because these are all marsupials. And so what that means is the announcement is actually that now these animals are coming out of the pouch so you can see them. So they were actually born like months and months and months ago and did the whole being the size of a jelly bean and crawling up into mom's pouch and latching onto a nipple thing. But yeah, now you can see a red-necked wallaby, a Parma wallaby that probably wasn't really tiny and beating somebody up, and a Potteroo joey, all just popping out of the pouch and being adorable at the Exmoor Zoo. And that brings us to our deaths for the week. Woodland Park Zoo has announced the passing of a 33-year-old ferruginous hawk named Cree. Cree was a huge fan favorite at the zoo, in particular because Cree did free flight programs. And the coolest thing about what Cree would do is not only would Cree fly over the audience that was watching the program, but would then take a path that would go down visitor paths. So even people that weren't at the show would still see this hawk flying right over them and then back to their trainer, which is just incredible. So Cree had a huge impact on people, both that saw those shows and that were just at the zoo at those times, which is pretty amazing. Our friends at Roger Williams Park Zoo have said goodbye to a howler monkey named Ramon. Ramon was suffering from chronic renal failure, and as often happens, it was medically managed for a while, but as it progressed, it got to the point where it could no longer be managed, and the life just wasn't there for this monkey anymore. Ramon was 22 years old at the time of his death, and howler monkeys have a life expectancy of around 15 in the wild and 20 in human care. So even with renal failure, he outlived the median life expectancy in human care. And the coolest part of this to me is that both the team and his troop were surrounding him as he was euthanized. And so everyone, human and not, got to see and understand what was happening, which I think is a really beautiful thing for species that get it. The Sydney Zoo has announced that they had 2 bull sharks that passed away recently. They did full necropsies, brought in external experts and all kinds of other stuff, and they found trauma consistent with accidental impact. Now, no more details were given than that, and they certainly don't owe anyone anything, but it makes me wonder, did they run into each other? Did they run into the glass? Not really sure what happened, but again, we don't need to know. But it's very sad to see those 2 animals go, and they have had a lot of extra eyes on the habitat to make sure that none of the animals that live in there in that multi-species aquarium have any issues, and everyone else is doing fine. So it seems like whatever happened to those 2 bull sharks just happened to those bull sharks, which is a good thing. Milena, an Amur tiger at Brookfield Zoo, has passed away due to kidney issues that led to heart arrhythmias. Unfortunately, when the doctors got in there to see what was going on, it was just too much. They could tell that the kidney issues and the heart issues together were not going to be something that Milena could overcome, and so they did decide to do the humane and compassionate thing and euthanize. Milena was the first ever Amur tiger to successfully undergo a hip transplant, which had nothing to do with, this situation. But it just, again, talks about the amazing care that these animals get, when they are in amazing zoos like Brookfield. So sending love to the team. And then last but not least in our deaths this week, the Oklahoma City Zoo has said goodbye to an 11-year-old jaguar named Rico. Rico had arthritis and a broken ulna that didn't heal properly, and while vets both at his previous facility and the Oklahoma City Zoo did everything to manage the situation, it wasn't good. The mishealing added to the arthritis just created a really bad situation. And so unfortunately, they had to let their beloved boy go. So sending all the love to the team at the Oklahoma City Zoo. And moving on from births and deaths, we get to the rest of our zoo news section. And we're going to start off with what would have been the headline this week if we didn't have so many crazy stories about bad zoos, and it's all about good aquariums. USA Today has released their 10 best aquariums list, and again, this is a list that is voted on by fans, so there are some pros and cons to that, but here it is. In 10th place, Maritime Aquarium. 9th place, our friends at Odyssey Aquarium. Cool to see them make the list. The Florida Aquarium comes in at number 8, and our friends at Adventure Aquarium in New Jersey, right outside of Philly, come in at number 7. The Tennessee Aquarium in Chattanooga comes in at number 6. Number 5 is Mystic Aquarium in Connecticut. And gosh, that place is beautiful. Our friends at the St. Louis Aquarium come in at number 4. And if y'all remember that episode, that is a very cool, very modern facility that is doing a lot of really amazing stuff. Number 3 is the Texas State Aquarium. Number 2 is Ripley's Aquarium of the Smokies. And number 1, again, is Johnny Morris's Wonders of Wildlife National Museum and Aquarium. Now, this is the facility that is owned by the owner of Bass Pro Shops, and they have 35,000 animals representing over 800 species, including big things like sharks and sea turtles. They also have like a rare boats section where you can go and see boats that were owned by people like Ernest Hemingway and other famous boat people, but I don't really know much about boats, so shrug. But very cool. So I thought this was really cool. And actually, interestingly, I have been to 9 of the 10 of these aquariums. The only one I haven't been to yet is Wonders of Wildlife, number 1. So I guess that means I gotta go, y'all. Animal welfare laws in Britain have gotten their first upgrade since 2012. The laws include larger habitat requirements for certain species, including elephants, visitors not being allowed to handle any rays, cephalopods, or fish, the phasing out of the tethering of birds of prey in certain habitats, better training for staff, especially those working with dangerous animals, and more. Now, these are things, by and large, that are already required to be accredited by BIAZA or WAZA or AZA or any of those facilities. But, this now means this is the law, so every animal holding facility in the country will have to follow these laws, which is pretty fantastic, especially in light of, again, the headline story. Our friends at the Millbrook School are changing the name of the zoo there. The Trevor Zoo was named after Frank Trevor, and he was the person who showed up and had some reptiles and launched the whole zoo program there, and that's why what the zoo has been named after. Well, one of his students was Dr. Thomas E. Lovejoy III, who studied under Frank Trevor and graduated in 1959 before going on to become one of the foremost conservationists in the world. So because of that, the zoo wants to honor both men, and so the new facility name will be the Trevor Lovejoy Zoo. And I like this. I actually think they should add other names over time. Alan Toussaint has been there for a long time and is doing incredible work, and our friend Daniel Cohen is doing good stuff there, and maybe they should just add all the names. I think it should be called the Trevor Lovejoy Toussaint Cohen Zoo, the Red Panda Zoo. What do you think? No? Okay, no. But while I do joke, I do like the name, and I think it's got to be really special for them and important, because when you think of all the signage and everything, to change branding is not the easiest thing to do. So this really shows their commitment to Dr. Lovejoy and all of the incredible work that he did, and I do really like that. I do also wonder how many people that visit the zoo are now going to wonder who the heck Trevor Lovejoy was, but that's for their signage to take care of, not me. Our friends at the Lehigh Valley Zoo recently discovered something pretty incredible about their red panda brothers. They are actually a brother and a sister. As their second birthday approached, vet staff at the zoo did annual exams of the brothers, and they discovered that Cosmo is a boy, but Miko is actually female. The zoo has been in contact with the SSP to figure out how to handle the situation, and that's really important because we don't want panda incest babies. So will they do birth control and keep them together? Will they move one of them? Oftentimes it's the female that moves, but this habitat isn't really set up for cubs, if I remember correctly. I haven't been in it, but I'm stretching my brain back, and I don't think they're set up for panda cubs. And so if that's the case, and if they have to move one, it'll probably be Miko, since I assume she is a genetically valuable panda because she's really cute and I love her. And that's the only reason I think that. And that is why Sarah Glass is in charge of the SSP, and I make a podcast. Okay, I love this next story so much. So we've talked before about how the National Aquarium in Baltimore has placed floating wetlands and done all kinds of other stuff to improve the water quality in Baltimore's inner harbor, right? So the aquarium, if you haven't seen it, literally sits right on the harbor. And it's so easy for them to just like be right there and do things to help, and they are. And while I say it's easy because of the location, like, they don't have to. They're doing the thing, and I respect the heck out of it, right? And now there's a sign that it's working really well. Otters have been coming back to the area in large numbers. And that is a great indicator species showing that the water quality is improving. The food for otters is coming in and being more plentiful. And so this is a great way of illustrating one facility doing a cleanup type of thing in its own area and having a major impact on what's going on with their wildlife. And I love that so freaking much. Also, the fact that it's otters and they're adorable helps. But yeah. And then a fun little story to end the Zoo News section this week. The Lois Club convention was recently in Kansas City. What is the Lois Club? That's right, it's a club of people named Lois. So this was started decades ago and has gone from a few members to hundreds of members that actually get together for annual conventions. I don't know what they do. I assume they sit around and talk about being called Lois and have a good laugh whenever somebody walks into the room and goes, "Hey, Lois," and everyone goes, "Yes," and then they laugh. That's my assumption. But anyway, why am I mentioning this on my podcast? Because the Kansas City Zoo has an elephant named Lois, and as part of the convention, Lois the elephant was inducted into the Lois Club. So Lois the elephant is officially the largest member of the Lois Club. And I think in times like this, we just need a little fun and goofy, and that is that.
Conservation, news time. Oh yeah.
All right, and that brings us to our conservation news for the week. So there's been a lot of talk on this podcast and the rest of the world about how Republicans are not doing the best things in the United States right now. A certain president has been causing some issues, but I have to give props where props are due. Republicans in the House of Representatives removed a provision from a federal budget bill that required the sale or transfer of 500,000 acres of federal public lands in the West. And this was done largely by representatives in the West who did not want to see that land sold and who knew they didn't want their constituents didn't want to see that land sold. And so they stood up and they said they would not vote for the bill if that provision stayed in there. And so I've got to give props and, just point out that, like, sometimes you can stand up to the bad stuff and it works. And that was taken out. And while the federal budget bill is doing a whole lot of damage to zoos and aquariums and conservation organizations and all kinds of stuff, here's an example of where people stood up and it worked. And I love that. And I want to give them props and say, please do more. A new shape-shifting octopus has been discovered off the coast of Australia. The Carnarvon flapjack octopus is the latest of 10 new octopus species named from a single 2022 research trip. The octopus is only 1.6 inches across at full size and is able to live at more than half a mile beneath the surface of the ocean. Flapjack octopuses, in case you are wondering, do get their names because they can flatten themselves like flapjacks. And it's amazing that just one, research into this new area, one research expedition, that's the word I was looking for, was able to find 10 new species of octopuses, plus who knows what else. On a less happy note, the Orinoco crocodile is in big trouble. Conservationists in Venezuela recently did a new survey of the population, and they basically have decided that they're losing the conservation battle for this species. Fewer than 100 individuals remain at this point in time, and it seems like the conservation efforts around the species simply aren't working. I don't know what that means. I don't have an answer. I don't know what the next step is, but it's worth noting, and hopefully some other conservationists are able to step in and fix it. I don't know, but yeah, had to share that one because it's a bummer. We do, however, have some good stories, in particular about coral restoration work this week. So, first of all, researchers at UC San Diego have developed a gel using nanoparticles that slowly release some of the favorite smells of coral larvae. Now, admittedly, they don't have noses, but it turns out that when coral larvae are trying to determine where to attach and settle down and build their home, so to speak, they actually do something similar to what we think of as smelling, and they check to see if the chemicals in the water are the ones that are associated with healthy reefs. This makes a lot of sense, but it also means that new coral won't settle down and start to grow in an area that needs repopulation because there have been issues there. So this gel can be placed in areas where coral has disappeared, and it's been shown to improve the settlement of coral larvae up to 20 times in experiments. That's incredible. The gel lasts for a month, giving plenty of time for the coral to settle and grow and start to release their own chemicals, which will encourage other larvae to settle there. And along those same lines, scientists in Mexico have developed biodegradable 3D printed coral structures they can insert into reefs along the Yucatan coast. These structures mimic the shape and texture of real coral and are infused with nutrients to attract marine life. Real coral then begins growing on top of these structures, but also other marine life comes back to the area because they see the faux coral and the nutrients there, which then encourages more coral to settle down in the area, which encourages more marine life to come back to the area, and it is the circle of... I'm not going to sing that, but it's the circle of life. And again, just hugely successful early trials show a 300% increase in biodiversity in reefs in just 6 months when these structures are used. That's incredible. And then last but not least, for conservation news, I don't want to harp on this too much, but you know that whole direwolf thing? We talked about it. We did a special episode about it, and I was like, hey, they aren't direwolves. Well, now Colossal's chief scientist has admitted in an interview that the direwolves aren't direwolves, just genetically modified gray wolves. Exactly like I said, and Hank Green said, and most good science communicators said. And of course, this doesn't change the fact that the Trump administration used this, quote, de-extinction technology that now the company admits is bogus as a reason for gutting, most of the conservation legislation out there. But hey, at least Colossal admits they lied. I guess that's good. Question mark? And I'll be curious to see. I haven't gone and looked at this yet. I need to. I try to stay out of comment sections. I really do. But I was on Colossal's social media when I was looking up all the direwolf stuff for that special episode. And the amount of dude bros who all have the same profile picture, and I know you all know exactly what I'm talking about, we're posting all this stuff saying like, hey, don't trust these Facebook scientists and don't listen to podcasters. Podcasters seriously came under attack. I'm not just being sensitive, but F them. We know you guys really de-extincted direwolves. We love you guys, blah, blah, blah. And I need to go and see if my guess is they either haven't seen this, or the algorithm doesn't show it to them, or they are just like, I still believe. It reminds me of, if you've ever seen this video, if not, look up Wrestling, It's Still Real to Me, because there was this guy who was meeting some wrestlers after they announced that it was all fake, and this just big dude who was like an adult male starts crying, and he goes, it's still real to me, damn it, it's still real to me. And I think of that often when I look at social media. But that brings us to In Other News. And kind of tying into, honestly, a lot of the stories this week, from Colossal to the headline story. But, sometimes I look at what is going on with society at large and with people around me and on social media and such, and I can't help but wonder, what the hell is going wrong with us? It's tough. But then I remember that we are primates. We are closely related to chimpanzees and bonobos who rape and kill and plot revenge and all kinds of just crazy stuff. And sometimes because of that, I actually find myself impressed that we don't suck as a species, just far worse than we do when I remember that. Primates, even though I have fallen in love with many, both human and non, do tend to be some of the worst behaved groups of animals. And apparently that includes capuchin monkeys, who have found a new way to be dastardly. A group of young males, and it's always a group of young males, isn't it, has started kidnapping baby howler monkeys on an island in Panama. Researchers have found no reason why this is happening and believe it is just to alleviate boredom and fill the time and space in their lives. They do not take care of the babies. They certainly cannot breastfeed the babies. And so I assume these babies are just being kidnapped to die. These monkeys are jerks. That's really the story. And then if that's not bad enough, another type of primate has taken up a hobby that I've been told at various times in my own life is evil, a sin, or at the very least, a waste of time. Yes, I'm talking about the dastardly deed of drumming. A large research project between scientists in Europe, Africa, and the US has concluded that chimpanzees drum with deliberate rhythm and timing, hitting tree trunks and roots as they travel, often hooting rhythmically at the same time. Scientists believe this is proof that rhythm has always been a part of humanity since before we even evolved into humanity. And hey, listen, the rest of my audience can't hear this right now. This is just specifically for you. You know who I'm talking about. I hate to say this, but this story means that the fact that you still clap on 1 and 3 and can't quite keep the beat through an entire song and all of that stuff, it means that you're not only rhythmically challenged, but are clearly evolutionarily inferior to me. Yeah, I'm sorry. And yes, I am talking specifically to you. Again, no one else can hear this thanks to some new podcast technology. But I've even seen that video of you dancing at that wedding. So, yeah, just admit it. But hey, at least you're a nice person. And that brings us to our animal holidays for the week.
Oh, animal holidays. Animal holidays. Hey!
Actually, before we get to those, I know there's at least one person in the audience who just heard what I said and was like, well, at least he thinks I'm a nice person. I'll take the wins where I can get them at this point. Anyway, May is National Duckling Month, National Lake Cleanup Month, and No Mow May. June is Zoo and Aquarium Month, World Oceans Month, and Orca Month. And then for our individual days, May 30th is World Sea Lion Day. The 31st is World Parrot Day. June 1st is World Reef Day and Dinosaur Day, and also launches Deep Week. And then the 4th is Hug Your Cat Day, and also Get the Crap Scratched Out of You Day. Okay, I added that last one, but let's be honest, they're the same thing. And the 5th is World Environment Day, and those are your animal holidays for the week. All right, so there you have it, folks. Another episode of Rossifari Zoo News is done. I'd like to take a moment to say thank you to my patrons, especially my Red Panda level patrons, Dr. Laura Schenk, Dr. Stephen Williamson, Barbara Bennett, Jenny Owens, Melissa Reed, Carrie Kirkpatrick, John Lewis, also here for stickers, and Kevin Williams. I'd also like to say thank you to everyone who contributed stories this week, including Anya Keene, Colleen Linehan, Kim Cooley-Croninger, Carrie Kirkpatrick, Kevin Williams, Emily Rockbuck, Jay Meredith, Ken Tryon, Dr. Laura Schenk, Dr. Natalie Taco, Ren Howell, Nancy Fetters, Kristen Khalil, Lizard Dunlevy, Julie Hodges Best, Barbara Bennett, my good buddy Matty Pats, Ali Malensky, Kay Malensky,
The Malenskys.
Sam Evans, Dr. Zoe Rossi, Elizabeth Charles, Sarah Gilsel, Ann Yoshioka, Crystal Chapman, Amanda Berg, Sherry Weiss, and Emily Poche. Thank you all so much for contributing to this week's episode. We'll be back here on Tuesday with a brand new interview episode. And until then, remember, friends, the words Newsy credits backwards are Steider Kiswen. The Rossifari podcast is produced, hosted, and engineered by John Rossi. Editing and fact-checking by John and Dr. Zoe Rossi. Our theme song is Sevens by Nathan Burke, performed by Nathan and John. Interrupting John theme and additional voices by Taylor Isaac Gray. You can reach John directly on Instagram and Facebook at Rossifari or by email at rossifaripod@gmail.com. Rossifari is part of the Daydreamer Media Network. Now, stop listening to me and go visit a zoo. This is really cool. I like this story a lot. So we've talked before about how the National Aquarium in Baltimore has placed floating wet